Hello, friends. Welcome to this live edition of Syracuse Sports. This is Syracuse basketball postgame. I was pausing there for a minute because I think this is our first show of 2026. It is, because our last show was New Year's Eve. And I didn't want to say Happy New Year because, well, you can't break the Larry David rule, right? We're well past saying Happy New Year on January 6th. But alas, we are here, and we are here after a Syracuse win. It was a win. I think we should note that. I think we should remember that. I think you put a lot of cliches into place here when you talk about it's not easy to win in league play and some other things that you can apply to this game. But let's be honest here. Syracuse avoided an epic meltdown in Atlanta, a type of game that had Syracuse had lost, Adrian Autry probably should have been left in Atlanta had they lost this game. Just saying, but they won. Syracuse at one point up by 20 points. That melts down. Georgia Tech gets back in this thing, aided by Syracuse's turnovers. Syracuse had 11 turnovers in the second half, to steal a term from the Orange head coach. Certainly had some dips on both sides of the floor with the turnovers, but certainly on defense as well. Donnie Freeman absolutely dominant in this game with 27 points. That's a career high for him. Back in the starting lineup tonight for the first time since returning from that foot injury on New Year's Eve, but he did not start that game against Clemson, but back in the starting lineup tonight for the first time in 46 games. There was a lot to like, or 46 days, I should say, not 46 games, but excuse me, there was a lot to like about this game. The first half, Syracuse scores 44 points, their highest output in the first half this year. They're moving the ball. They're moving their bodies. They're not letting Georgia Tech set in any kind of defense. It was a smart approach. Syracuse took whatever crowd was there. There was actually a good number of Syracuse fans in that building tonight, a small crowd there to watch Georgia Tech. Naithan George, his return to Georgia Tech. Akira Soare, his return to Georgia Tech, the two transfers that came to Syracuse from Atlanta. And Naithan George had, it goes both ways for him tonight in this game, but 17 points to be their second leading scorer tonight. He was 10 of 10 at the free throw line. Syracuse has certainly been much better at the free throw line as of late. When you get Naithan George at the line when it matters, Donnie Freeman certainly helping that as well. The second half, though, you just can't have a meltdown the way that Syracuse did. And a lot of the things that we've pointed out through the season about kind of a lack of direction, a lack of cohesion. In the first half, it looked like they were running an offense. It looked like, hey, a lot of the same plays, but they were working. And that's what you do. You just keep hammering it. If Georgia Tech's not going to stop it, you keep doing it. There was a lot of contributions all over the place, looking good, right? To steal a term, though, again, you're going to have a dip or two, but you can't have a scoring drought of over 5 minutes. You can't have the turnovers. You can't have the lack of direction that Syracuse showed in the second half of this game. You know, one of our insiders, Antonio, says this a lot, and I think we're starting to see this with Autry and Syracuse. See, the first half is won by athletes. The second half, this is just generally, is won by coaches, right? Not that Stoudemire completely and thoroughly outcoached Autry in the second half, but a lot of what we've talked about through the year, just kind of that lack of direction, the lack of an identity, the lack of something to lean onto, which is getting better with Donnie Freeman, by the way, as we'll talk about. This is just not a well-coached team by and large, and that shows in those moments. But they did win the game, right? They did win the game. I don't want to harp on that, but that's just one of those things that you didn't come out of this with a whole lot of confidence. But this is a stretch of games, as we're going to go over here, where Syracuse can really build some confidence, can build some cohesion, can build some chemistry, especially with Donnie Freeman back in the lineup here, because there's some opportunities here. Because here's the thing when it comes to that constant conversation that we have about the net rankings and about the NCAA tournament and Syracuse trying to play. Shout out to my guy, Jay Alter, who did play-by-play on the ACC network tonight. He mentioned the term meaningful games in March, as noted by Syracuse athletic director John Wildhack a number of times in this game. Remember, it's not a number. It's not, well, if you get to 10 ACC wins or whatever line you want to draw there, you have to reach a certain number, but it's who you beat. So for all the efforts tonight of what Syracuse had to do to struggle on the road in the second half after a great first half to earn an ACC win on the road, never easy to do, your reward is a quad 3 win. Georgia Tech is 147 in the quad rankings. That's in the net rankings, pardon me. That's a quad 3 win. So you're squeezing a lot of juice to get a quad 3 win, but you're avoiding the quad 3 loss. So yeah, it'll go into your numbers. It's their first ACC win of the season thus far, and a long ACC journey to go here, but the reward doesn't really tilt your net ranking positively one way or the other. Syracuse will jump in the Ken Palm rankings, and this will help, right? You avoid a bad loss more than you earn a good win in this situation, right? So let's look at a few things here in this game. We mentioned Donnie Freeman. Look, it has become pretty distinct here in the second game since he's returned. Of course, he played 4 games before going out for a good stretch of the season, but since he's come back, there is Syracuse basketball with Donnie Freeman, and there is Syracuse basketball without him. Career high 27 points tonight, 9 of 18 from the field, 7 of 11 from the free throw line, which is actually kind of a dip for him at the line. He was Syracuse's leading rebounder with 9 tonight, hit a couple of threes. And the difference is Donnie in the paint. Syracuse beat Georgia Tech in the paint tonight, 38-36. There was a stretch of this game early where Syracuse got behind big time in the paint. And look, Georgia Tech was missing some big guys. Ndago gets hurt, does come back in the second half. He picks up his 4th foul very early in the second half, doesn't foul out. As a matter of fact, as I'm looking at it here, Georgia Tech had 4, or is it 5? 5 players, Fleming, Washington, Marshall, Ndago, and Reeves, that picked up 4 fouls in this game, but nobody fouls out. So remember, they don't have Mosiah. He's out, doesn't play in this game. Ndago out. Marshall, another big guy who outweighed William Kyle by about, 60 pounds in the paint. Although William Kyle, huge block on Ndago down the stretch in this game to give Syracuse that cushion that they needed, that spark, that play. Although there were a couple plays down the stretch, Syracuse was just trying to throw this game away, as we'll get into here. But William Kyle was in foul trouble as well. So he ends up with 5 points, 8 rebounds, second leading rebounder on this team in 25 minutes, but he got 3 fouls quickly, so they had to adjust the lineup there a little bit. But this is a team that is near the top of the country in block shots in Syracuse. This is a much better defensive team that has not been an issue for this team throughout the year. And here you have William Kyle making another huge block, another clutch play for this team. He has arguably been the MVP of this team. Donnie Freeman is here to come back and take that title away. But Freeman getting rebounds in the paint, a threat to shoot on the outside, he just opens up so much for the offense, right? I know I'm preaching to Captain Obvious here, but this is just a distinctly different team with him there. I don't think it excuses some of the things that Syracuse did when he was out in terms of the lack of ball movement, the lack of direction on this offense that we've talked about. You still can do those things when Donnie Freeman's out, but the element he brings is obvious, right? When he's cooking, you let him cook. Now, he scores. There's about 14 minutes to go in the game, and then he doesn't score again for another 10 minutes. So there's like a 10-minute stretch there where he disappears. And Eric Devendorf brought this up. See if I can bring up the tweet here. And he says, no clue why Freeman hasn't got the ball in the mid-post area while Ndago has 4 fouls. Why is he on the perimeter? See, it's a lot of little things like that that add up. Late in the game, J.J. Starling, so he gets the ball with about a minute to go, charges about minute 12 to go, charges right at the hoop. And we know that JJ has not been having a great year at the free throw line this year. So instead of, and I know some people don't like the old Jim Boeheim bleed the clock strategy, but in that case, there's no reason to charge to the hoop. Take 20 seconds off the clock, and you're not a good free throw shooter. Bring the ball up, put the ball in Naithan George's hands, who was 10 of 10 at the free throw line tonight, is certainly the guy you want with the ball in his hands in a free throw situation. Bleed the clock, right? Adrian Autry actually called a great timeout at one point in the second half when things were starting to slide for this team. 20-point lead, whittles down. There's like 8 minutes to go, calls timeout. And I thought that would be the timeout. Okay, guys, like, hey, see that gas pedal over there? You're supposed to keep your foot on it. Let's go. You know, you don't want to interrupt a pitcher when he's in a groove. You don't want to interrupt the team when they're in a groove. But there is a strategy when you're up by 20, 18, 16 points. It's almost harder sometimes, as dumb as this sounds, to keep a team motivated when they're up that big, right? To keep, there's a killer instinct that has to build. And, you know, it's easy to lean on coaches. You got to put that someone on the players as well. But this is where, again, I think that lack of a beacon, the lack of a central message, the lack of an identity, whatever that orange standard is, dissipates in the second half. 11 turnovers. They just got careless. Now, Donnie Freeman got tired in the second half. You could see it. I'm going to cut the guy a break. You're going to give me 27 points. You're going to give me the kind of first half you gave this team. You're going to lift all boats on this team. He is the tide that lifts all boats on this team offensively. I'm going to cut you a break because when you're out for a month, it's not just going to come, right? Comes back, does not start in the Clemson game, but had to carry Syracuse in the second half, and they lost that game, right? But had to carry Syracuse in the second half just to keep them within striking distance of Clemson. Again, they got throttled in the paint, and Syracuse, without him, probably loses that game, probably 10 to 12 points. They lose this game without Donnie Freeman tonight. So you can see the pressure that's on his shoulders because JJ, just for the senior leader and how important he is to this team, he's either one end of the spectrum or the other. He had a great drive and dunk in this game. One of the great highlights of the year for Syracuse basketball. But then the play happens that I mentioned earlier, and it just doesn't feel like there's any consistency in between. Had a great alley-oop pass in this game. Like, JJ has his moments, but then he has the dips, right? Kyan Anthony, where was he? And I feel like we brought this up in the last post game. Are you just going to go with your senior, or are you going to go with your captain? Are you going to go with kind of the standard, or are you going to go with who's playing better? Kyan had a great contribution in this game. I mean, Kyan has been pretty steady the past few games. Tonight, he ends up with 11 points, and a lot of that I believe all of that came in the first half, if I'm not mistaken. If not a ton of production in the second half. Had a couple of threes, getting to the rim. Like, I felt like he could have been mixed in a little bit late in this game. But he made a contribution in the first half. We mentioned the game that George had. Naithan Kings, 7 points tonight, 3 of 8 from the field, 1 of 4 from three-point range. Syracuse better from the three-point line tonight. 2 more than the Clemson game, 7 of 19. They had 3 or 4 three-pointers right off the bat. Like, they had a total of 5 against Clemson in their first ACC game. You had to respect the three-point line for Syracuse tonight. Georgia Tech had to adjust defensively to respect the three-point line, which a lot of teams haven't had to do against Syracuse. Now, they only ended up with 7 out of 19, but it was enough of a balance there. They've got to get Naithan Kings going. I keep saying Naithan George. They got to get Nate Kings going from the three-point line. Autry talked about it this week. My colleague Donna DeToda wrote a great piece about this on syracuse.com. Tyler Betsy, also in that category, 1 of 3 from the three-point line tonight, right? So those are your 2 best three-point shooters. Now, Donnie's back and can hit the 3. 2 of 4 tonight, but you don't want Donnie Freeman up in the 7, 8, 9 three-pointer attempt category. Tonight was perfect. The shots that are there, find your groove, 2 of 4, you contribute, perfect, right? Because you got to respect Donnie Freeman no matter where he is on the court. But that is going to continue to be something to watch for this team because good defensive teams and good coaches are going to take Donnie Freeman and his three-point shot away. Naithan George had an early 3, but he's not a consistent 40-minute threat from the three-point line. Your 2 biggest threats from the three-point line are not getting enough shots there, are not getting enough quality opportunities, particularly Kings. Betsy's a bench guy, and he's going to find his moments, but they have got to work the ball, and this is where the ball movement comes in. This is where structure comes in. This is where running an offense comes in. You recruited and brought Nate Kings in to shoot threes. Bottom line, period. And he's not getting the attempts. Now, I will say this. Nate King's great defensive game. He's a great defender overall. Tonight, he had 2 block shots to go with those offensive numbers. 5 rebounds, right? I was texting with my guy, Matty G, during the game, one of our insiders, and he's like, why is Nate King's out there? Why do they run so much with him? Like, because he makes up for that lack of offense with other things. That's not his fault. It's a fair question to ask. If he's going to play that much, why isn't he getting more three-point attempts? Totally fair to ask. But he plays because he rebounds and he's a great defender. And he had 2 big block shots in this game. So he makes up for it in other ways. But you got to give that guy more of what he was brought in to do, right? You don't bring in Mariano Rivera to get you to move some runners over and get a couple RBIs, right? He's your closer. You brought in Nate Kings, big for the Red Sox fan, by the way, to make a Yankees reference there. Just want to point that out. But you brought in Nate Kings to shoot threes, and you're looking at the box score after each game. He's got 3 attempts. Like, that's not enough. And Autry said it. He had 4 attempts tonight, 1 of 4, right? But that aspect of the offense certainly has to get going, right? A couple other things we want to mention here before we get to our Syracuse Sports Insiders and being a Syracuse Sports Insider. Might I remind you, my friends, not Happy New Year, but doesn't hurt to remind you in the new year here in 2026 that being a Syracuse Sports Insider gives you direct text message access to me anytime. It's a very busy time. The transfer portal has been a lot more outgoing than incoming players so far for Syracuse football, but we'll be keeping you up to date on that. Who's visiting, who Syracuse is targeting, and who they still could be going after. Still 10 days to go in the portal, guys, right? You got to play the long game in this thing. Our insiders have had great opinions and takes about that. You can text me during games, as we were doing tonight, watching this Syracuse-Georgia Tech game. You know what starts tomorrow? Wednesday, January 7th, depending on when you're listening or watching this pod. Lacrosse. Yeah, lacrosse starts Wednesday. It's here. You look out the window in certain parts of our listening audience here, our viewing audience, and there's a lot of snow piling up outside your window. Lacrosse, spring sport, yeah, starts Wednesday. So it's busy time, my friends, and we'll keep you up to date on the Syracuse Sports Insider text line, giving you direct text message access to me anytime, and we highlight our Syracuse Sports Insiders exclusively here on the pod. There's a couple more numbers from this game just to look at. Couple of things here. Syracuse grabs their first ACC win. They were 43% overall, 26 of 61. That's 43%, 7 of 19 from three-point range. You'll take that. You want to see Kings get a few more. You want to see the three-point line be an asset for Syracuse. The percentages there are just not where they need to be for a team that's got better three-point shooters and it brought in players specifically to shoot the three. So we'll see how they continue to get there. Look, free throws have been better. And we mentioned when you get Naithan George at the line, Donnie Freeman being back, the percentages, there's nowhere to go but up, frankly, because they've been the second worst free throw shooting team in the country. But that's the kind of number you want to see. If Georgia Tech's going to foul, and they did, nobody fouled out, amazingly, with all those guys with 4 fouls. But you can get to the free throw line 31 times. You go 23 of 31, 74%. You will take that every time. Syracuse out-rebounded Georgia Tech, 44-34 points in the paint, edge to Syracuse, 38-36. They assisted 15 of 26 field goals. That is a lot in the first half with the better ball movement and the players moving. So you'll take that and just hope you get more of that from this team as they go forward here. 7 blocks on the night for Syracuse. 6 in the first half. That 7th and most important block of the game from William Kyle down the stretch. Onondaga. This team continues to be near the top in the country in block shots. So you got to take those, and it was 11 points off turnovers tonight. You got to take those block shots, get them the other way, and convert them into points. And for the most part, this is a team that's doing that. So you take the good with the bad. I'm not going to sing the Facts of Life theme song for you, because you take the good, you take the bad, you take the good, you take the bad. That's the facts of life. The facts of life for Syracuse is it's a 40-minute basketball game. And I'm not saying you're going to be cruising down the highway at 90 miles per hour for 40 minutes. But when you're up by 20, you cannot abruptly get off that highway right at the exit and then, just have that car kind of stutter down the boulevard afterwards. It's not a very good analogy. It's the best I can come up with on the fly. But you get what I'm saying. Like, you're cruising. I'm not saying you got to win by 20, but let me put it to you this way. The biggest margin of victory that Syracuse had in ACC play last year was 14 points. When you're up 20 and up 18, 16, 14 for a good chunk of the second half, like, this was a game they could have maintained that, if not beat that number. So a 10-point win is a 10-point win on the road. But when you're up by 20 in what is not a hostile environment, not a big crowd, not a loud crowd until the end when they got into it, when they smelled blood in the water for Syracuse kind of melting down here. A 20-point lead withers down to 5. You got to show a killer instinct, and you got to show that you can keep that pedal to the metal as far as you can go. So I'm not saying you got to do it for 40, but I don't think it was unrealistic to say that Syracuse needed to do it longer in this game that they did. So it just shows you the process that's still there. But the encouraging thing is this is a different team with Donnie Freeman. What it opens up, what it forces opponents to do. So I wanted to look at this here before we get to our insiders, because again, all you get out of this is a quad 3 win. So let's look at the upcoming schedule for Syracuse. Pitt. As we stand here, Pitt has a net ranking of 112. Okay, so that means I got to jump around a little bit here, find my quad rankings. So 112 in the quad. Give me a second here, guys. I just want to pull up the Syracuse schedule and look at what's coming here, because there's an opportunity for all the flaws and the faults and the things that kind of gnaw at you about this team. They have a real opportunity to kind of get in the flow here. All right. So they're at Pitt coming up on Saturday. That is 112 in the net on the road. That's a quad 2 win. Okay. So quad 2 win you can put in the bank. Florida State, 114 as it stands right now. Again, these numbers fluctuate, but as it stands right now, that's a game back at home for Syracuse on Tuesday the 13th. So net ranking 113 at home. That is going to be, just so I have my numbers right, that's a quad 3 win, right? So kind of like tonight, just kind of a take care of business type of game, right? At BC. BC, as it stands right now, is a quad, or has a net ranking, of 190. Virginia Tech at home, 57. That's quad 2. Miami, 36 at home. That's quad 2. At NC State, who currently has a net ranking of 37, it's a quad 1 opportunity. Then you finish the month against Notre Dame at home, who is sitting with a net ranking of 67. So that's quad 2. That's an opportunity for this team. Got it against Georgia Tech tonight. Pitt, Florida State, BC. Virginia Tech's certainly going to be a tough matchup, but you get that at home. Miami, at home. NC State on the road. You're hoping Syracuse improves by then. You're hoping Syracuse kind of has their act together a little bit more by then, a little more organized by then, but it's an opportunity. See, there are opportunities on this schedule. Notre Dame to close out at home. Because, guys, once this calendar flips to February, you get North Carolina twice, at Virginia, Cal, SMU, Duke, Wake Forest. Every one of those teams right now, Wake's at 71, and that's still a quad 2 opportunity. Duke's at 5. This is net ranking. Duke's at 5, SMU 29, Cal 54, Virginia 31. Carolina is obviously going to be in the top 20 if they hold where they are now. January is a chance to build momentum and avoid some pits here that you can't step in. February, there is not a break on that schedule. So Syracuse is going to need to have its collective you-know-what together by the time the calendar flips. So there are lots of opportunities left, but you've got to avoid the pitfalls. And tonight, Syracuse almost fell in that pit. Up 20, and they got to hold off Georgia Tech just to get a 10-point win on the road, right? That's what we're dealing with here. Let's see what you're dealing with on the Syracuse Sports Insider text line. You're going to kind of see the wave that the texts were on watching this game tonight. Seth B. So this is kind of when Syracuse is rolling and they're feeling it and the ball's moving. Things are looking good. That was the best ball movement I've seen from the Cuse offense this season. Red needs to stick. Whoop, come back. Where'd you go? Red needs to stick with his hot hands, though. Kyan was the leading scorer, and then he pulled him. Yeah, some of these substitution patterns, you kind of scratch your head, right? Brian S. It's the type of orange basketball I want to see. Solid defense, ball movement, player movement, making shots, and, of course, free throws matter. Then things start to take a turn. Mike W. This comeback is 100% on Red. No offense, no screens or plays to get good shots. All ISO crap. If they choke, leave them in Atlanta. See, that's what happened in the second half. They fell back to the iso ball, guys standing around on offense, watching somebody dribble, just taking it inside, not using the clock smartly. Like, that's coaching. That's coaching. When those things break down in the second half, you have to put some things on the players, but that is coaching when it is consistent that happens in the second half. Sean M. notes it here. First half, pure talent, athleticism, and hustle. Second half was coaching. He notes this: poor coaching plus great talent plus great effort wins games. Poor coaching plus great talent plus poor effort loses games. Same common denominator in both scenarios. From Kevin S. Says, Brent, I really like Red, but I'm starting to believe that he's not a head coach. They should not have collapsed the way that they did tonight. Stoudemire outcoached him. Lucky to win. See, I don't know. I think Stoudemire really outcoached him. I think he just led the horse to water. Syracuse just kept making mistakes, throwing away possessions, not using the clock. The calls out of timeouts just continue to be a weakness for this team. Watch what Clemson did. Watch what Brownell did against Clemson out of timeouts. The precision in those plays, the organization. Syracuse, somebody just dribbles around and tries to make something happen, right? So that's what I don't think Stoudemire necessarily outcoached Red, but he certainly didn't get out of he certainly got out of his team's way to let them capture the momentum from those mistakes, right? Roger says, all in all, good win. But when you figure out Autry's substitution patterns, please let me know. From John P., who says, Syracuse did find a way to hang on and win this game. Good for them for closing it out and finding a way. However, a good coach in a situation where his team is up 20 points simply finds a way to motivate his team and keep the gas pedal down. From Will, I'll give credit where it's due. A road conference win is always good. From my guy Mike V, who says, hashtag Freeman matters with 27-9. Yes, not free throws matter. Freeman matters. Freeman matters a lot, as Matty S. points out here. They certainly don't win this game without Freeman. He may have had to have 10 more of these type of games as the season goes along for this team to win. And that's it. There are going to be teams that harass Donnie Freeman, that make his life difficult, that double him. He's not going to have 27 points in every ACC game. He's going to struggle. So what we saw in that stretch when Syracuse did not have Donnie Freeman was a team that often had to struggle to win games, that did not look like a team that was organized on offense, that got spots and moments from some of those players that we mentioned, right? Freeman's back now. You'd rather have him than not. Opens up a lot of things. But what's going to happen in that first game when he gets into foul trouble, he gets taken out defensively, he's not shooting well, like it's coming, right? Who steps up? This is a talented team on paper around, has the experience it needs, has the three-point shooting it needs, has a lot of improved elements. What William Kyle's brought to the defense, like there are encouraging things. But when he steps down, I shouldn't say steps down, but when he gets taken out, who steps up? I'm still kind of waiting to see who that guy is. It should be JJ, not always JJ. I think Kyan is knocking on that door. I think that William Kyle can be that guy, but obviously he's limited offensively. Nate Kings is not getting the opportunities to shoot the rock, right? Naithan George. So the good and bad of Naithan George, 17 points, 10 of 10 at the free throw line tonight. Great. Look at his assist to turnover ratio. 5 assists, 6 turnovers tonight. You can't continue to have that assist to turnover ratio from the guy who's naturally going to have the ball in his hands the most, trying to make something happen if and when Donnie Freeman is down. And even when Donnie Freeman's rolling, Naithan George is still running the show. There were points tonight where JJ was running the show. That takes a little pressure off of Naithan George, but the next team that takes Donnie, at least limits Donnie Freeman to what he does, put you back in that situation you were in when he was out. How do they respond to that? I think that's going to be pretty fascinating to watch. All right, a couple more things before we go here, guys. To the secret voicemail line we go. And if you would like the secret voicemail line, being a Syracuse Sports Insider has its benefits. Let's see what we got here. Our first voicemail comes to us from Florida.
Hey, Brent, rockin' Ron in Florida. I want to first start off by saying Happy New Year to you and all the great insiders on here. And wish you all a good day, good night. And anyways, I just want to say this just shows how important Donnie Freeman is to this team. The first half, they looked awesome. It looked like there's a team that can make the tournament. But the second half had me scared, I'll tell you. And I got to give credit to the free throw. I thought we did pretty good with the free throws tonight. Yes, they matter. And hope they can keep this going through the next 4 games at least. I think we can win them. And until then, later.
There's my guy, Rockin' Ron, right there, baby. But where he makes a great point, we went over this briefly a minute ago. Georgia Tech, 10-5. Pitt, 11-5. Florida State, 12-5. Boston College, 13-5. Okay. You're not gaining much there in terms of quad opportunities, in terms of net rankings, but you're avoiding bad losses. Set you up for a home matchup against Virginia Tech, who right now is a quad 2 game. Set you up for Miami later in the month, quad 2 game at home. Set you up for NC State. Look at that stretch. Virginia Tech, Miami, NC State. 2 out of those 3 are at home. Then Notre Dame. So you put Notre Dame in there. 3 out of 4 at home. All of them, if I'm not mistaken, quad 2 games as it stands right now. In order to go into those games and have them mean what they should, you take care of business starting tonight in the next 4. Georgia Tech, Pitt, Florida State, and Boston College. To our next voicemail.
Hey, Brent. Not that Jim B. Glad to get a win on the road in the ACC. That's always tough. But I think this game showed what this team can be and what they, both good and bad. The offense was moving. They were passing. They were moving off the ball. They had a lot of assisted easy buckets. And then they kind of reverted back to this solo one-on-one. Combine that with the defensive lapses and almost let Georgia Tech back in this game. But at the end, they kind of regrouped there in the last 2 minutes and pulled it out. A positive to go forward, to get a road win in the ACC, and hopefully now this is a new thing with a new year, and they can string a few of these together.
Thank you, Jim. And thank you to Rockin' Ron. If you would like the secret voicemail line, I'll just say that being a Syracuse sports insider has its benefits. And I will leave it at that, my friends. So when are we going to meet again? On postgame, we're going to meet again on Saturday afternoon. Syracuse will head to the Peterson Event Center, take on Pittsburgh. That is a 2:00 tip, so we'll have our postgame show Saturday afternoon. I think we're going to have another pod in between this one that we're wrapping up now and that post-game show, so I'll let our insiders know about that. And the best way to know that, too, certainly is to subscribe. Whether it's on YouTube, Syracuse Sports, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your pods, make sure you subscribe and follow so when a new episode of Syracuse Sports pops up, you can listen and watch on demand when you want. Can't always be here for the live post-game shows. How dare you? But we get it. Once a year, you can't be here live, right? Everybody gets a hall pass. But if you can't, that's why subscribing on your favorite podcast platform gives you this show and gives you the Syracuse Sports Podcast on demand whenever you want. That's going to do it for this edition, though, of Syracuse Sports Live, our Syracuse basketball postgame show, all presented by Krause Health, the exclusive healthcare partner for Syracuse Athletics. The Orange win, barely avoid a meltdown at Georgia Tech. That's one of those, it's that thing from The Office where he's kind of writing his little journal. We're noting that one, but they did win. Picked up an ACC win tonight, 10-point victory over Georgia Tech, 82-72. I know we will join you again after the Pitt game, maybe a little something beforehand, but subscribe and you won't miss a thing. And we'll keep you up to date, of course, on the Syracuse Sports Insider text line as well. A lot of things happening, guys. Portal season, hoops, lacrosse starting. So please subscribe on our Syracuse Sports Insider text line to keep up with all the latest. We will talk to you again soon. Thanks for hanging tonight. We'll join you next time here on Syracuse Sports Live.